As you talk about it not being a line item, it's people's lives. I'd love to move to the cuts to NIH. The National Institutes of Health have already faced a slashing of thousands of grants this year and faces further budget cuts in 2026. Can you contextualize exactly what this means for American public health, that the NIH is undergoing what it is undergoing right now?
Yeah, well, let me just contextualize first the budget challenges they face. The Trump proposed budget for next year came out, about $18 billion cut in NIH funding, over a 40% cut from where we're at. Now, this is something that, for instance, we see in there nearly a $3 billion cut for cancer research. That's about a third of the cancer research that our country funds right now. I mean, I don't know about you, but my family's lost loved ones with cancer. I mean, I think every family in America has been touched by this in some way. How in the world is the richest, most powerful country in the world cutting back on our cancer research when this is becoming a greater problem? As I told you, my father is someone who's struggling with dementia, Alzheimer's. That is a lot of families that are struggling right now. Right now, we are trying to lead the charge on finding a cure, finding ways to be able to help treat these problems. This is what we're going to be setting back. And it's not just setting us back a year or two. This is going to be setting us back potentially a decade or two. And that's what I find so ridiculous. And then at the time when my Republican colleagues are talking about concern about global competition, in particular with China, they are the ones that are going to benefit the most. China's going to benefit the most from the United States in decreasing our investment. I already just heard from a top-notch medical researcher who is potentially going to lose their funding in the United States. They have already been contacted by China as well as other nations to move their research abroad. That's what we're going to be finding ourselves. We're going to be finding ourselves as no longer the epicenter, no longer the place that is driving innovation and winning Nobel Prizes and coming up with cures and seeing the benefit to our companies that are manufacturing these cures and the medicine and making tremendous amounts of money injecting into our economy. We would lose that and jeopardize this if this continues.
Now, those are the stakes. Let's talk about the potential outcomes. I spoke with one of your colleagues, Senator Tammy Baldwin, last week, and she indicated some optimism that these cuts will not hold. Do you share that optimism? Do you see a path forward where some of this funding or all of it could be restored?
I struggle to see where all of it could be restored. I'm hoping that we can minimize some of these cuts because some of my colleagues are finding out that their own research institutes and colleges and universities in their states, of which there are many in every single state, that they find themselves very much on the chopping block. So I'm hopeful. I do hope that we can stop it, but I'll be honest, I'm somebody that generally hopes for the best but plans for the worst. I'm somebody that is, my job is to try to make sure that, I am not having oversight over things that we're not anticipating. I need to make sure that we are thinking about what could happen if the worst of this happens. And right now, when I look at what's happened, for instance, my very first job in the federal government was at USAID, about trying to support our federal government and supporting our foreign assistance. We've seen that draw down close to zero in terms of what we can be continuing to do in development assistance. So, I don't think this is a moment where I'm overreacting. I think that there is a lot on the line, and we're seeing very aggressive attacks by this administration on so many important parts of our healthcare infrastructure.
Practically speaking, just quickly, what does that mean to prepare for the worst when it comes to these NIH cuts?
Well, a couple of things. One is that, I want to make sure that we're sounding the alarm with my colleagues here, helping them understand what the true impacts would be if we were to lose this funding. I am also engaged with my state in New Jersey to think through how we can offset some of these cuts that could be devastating to our colleges and our universities. We want to make sure we're not losing, researchers. Want to make sure we're not losing the next generation of young talent coming up. I've also been talking to different companies, whether pharmaceutical companies or other research companies, to try to think through how they might be able to adjust with research and development, R&D, in terms of their own funding. How long can they be able to sort of supplement to be able to offset some of the cuts that are expected? So that's what I'm trying to do is both trying to stop these cuts from happening at the federal level, as well as trying to see if there are mitigating plans that we can do at the state, at the local level, with colleges and universities, with the private sector, that can try to make sure we are not just losing and cratering our innovation in this country. So those are some of the things that I'm trying to do from a contingency standpoint.